Hi everyone, I'm Audrey and I go to the University of Texas in Austin and I'm in a sorority there, which means that I went through recruitment last fall. So the purpose of this video specifically is I just want to explain the entire process just so like if you're going through recruitment, you know what to expect, you know the vocabulary, you know the kind of rounds, like you're just prepared. And then I plan on following this video up with videos answering questions and tips and kind of giving advice based off of my recruitment experience. So first, make sure you subscribe for all of that content. I did go through all virtual recruitment, so it is a little different from my experience, but I'll kind of touch on those things later, and every school is different. So keep that in mind throughout this video, but also I feel like this video will help. Yeah. I think that's all for the intro. There's a lot of information. I'm just going to try to touch all of it. First, let's go over some vocabulary. The first word that you need to know is PNM, which stands for potential new member, and that is what you are when you're going through recruitment. So all of the freshmen or sophomores who are not in a sorority and want to be in a sorority who are going through the recruitment process are called PNMs. And then actives are the people on the other side who are in a sorority who are recruiting you. And then ROGAMs or ROGAMAs, those people are people who are in a sorority who have disaffiliated for the recruitment process. So you won't know what sorority they're in, they're not talking to their sorority during the recruitment process, and they help you throughout the process. So you'll be assigned to a ROGAM. I think my group had like maybe 15 people. I don't really know for sure because we all met on Zoom. I never met them in person. They help you make your choices at the end of the day, which I'll talk about. They've been through recruitment and they're in a sorority, so they can answer any of your questions. They're honestly just there to support you. They're completely unbiased. They just want to help you through the process and get you to where you belong. I loved my ROGAM. She helped me a lot, just talking it through. So those are the three like people involved before recruitment. This is before like the first official day of recruitment. Depending on your school rules, you may be reached out to and they may ask you like if you have any questions, like starting to get to know you. At some schools this is very illegal and at some schools this is very normal. I personally didn't get reached out to anyone, even though that happens at my school. So don't freak out if you don't get reached out to, but if you do get reached out to, make sure you know your rules at your school, and then you can honestly just ask any questions, get to know them. That's part of the beginning. And then also before recruitment, you have to register. So most registration, if it's in the fall, I don't really know the timeline for spring recruitment. Registration usually opens on June 1st. So that's when you give them all your information. And then this year and last year, at least at my school, we also submitted a video for open house round, which I'll get to in a second. Also in the summer is when you want to get your letter of recommendations. So this is the part that I feel like is the most stressful, but it really shouldn't be. For every sorority at your school, you want to try to get an alumni to write your letter of recommendation. So a letter of recommendation can only be written by an alumni for that sorority. They didn't necessarily have to go to your school that you're rushing at, but they needed to be in that sorority and have already graduated and in good standing. There's different like ways that letter of recs get written depending on the sorority. Like some people have it through their alumni website, some people have like physical letter of recs, some people have an email you send it to, and it should be all laid out. Like when you register, it'll tell you like what kind of letter of recs you need and where those letter of recs go. I know a lot of sororities now are accepting letter of recs from non-alumni. I know my sorority is. If you can't find an alumni for every sorority, that is another option as well for some sororities. Again, just do your research. Some sororities say like we'll only accept 3, some will only accept 1, and then some have an unlimited amount. So it really just depends on each sorority and their like national rules, which can get really overwhelming, especially like my school had 13 chapters, so all the rules and stuff and like the amount of letter of recs can get really overwhelming, but it's gonna be okay. Alumni wise, they don't necessarily have to know you that well. Like some people I didn't know very well, but I sent them my resume and all the information they needed. They needed like a picture of me to write my letter of rec, so I emailed them that. I hope that kind of explained that part. I did just mention a sorority resume, and a packet. Those are based on schools, like how serious they need to be. But basically in a sorority resume, it's basically a regular resume, but you have a little more information. I was a legacy, which means that my mom was in a sorority, and so I put that on there, and then your social media, which usually you wouldn't put on a regular resume. And I also just mentioned legacies. I'm kind of going back to like the vocabulary, but a legacy is when one of your family members was in a sorority, and so you are considered a legacy. Nowadays, legacies are starting to mean like really nothing, but it depends on, again, which sorority and their national rules. For me, I ended up not going to the sorority that I was a legacy for. I ended up getting let go by them. So don't freak out if you're not a legacy, because the times are changing. Okay, so now to the actual rounds of recruitment. The first day will be orientation. We called it opening convocation. You don't talk to any sororities, and for me, it was online again. So we had like a guest speaker, and then we met with our ROGAMs for the first time. So this is where you'll really get all the information, even if you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. They'll be able to answer questions and like the rules and everything. So in orientation, it's really like not a stressful thing at all. You just learn, you get to meet other people who are rushing and stuff like that. And then the second day is open house round. So this is when you are meeting every single sorority, no matter what. The way that I did it on virtual recruitment, we sent them a video when we registered. It was like a 3-minute video telling them about ourselves. And then on open house day, we sat and watched a video from them. And then if it's in person, you go to every single house, but we just watched videos. I feel like it's a little bit harder to get to know the sorority and like the vibe. So if you are doing virtual recruitment, I would suggest like looking on social media as well and like trying to get the full picture. Basing it off of video and social media is so like superficial, but it's also like all the information that you're given. Also, open house sometimes lasts 2 rounds. On virtual it lasted 1, but in person it's 2 days, depending on how many houses there are. So after the first round, this is going to explain what you do after every round. You are going to meet with your ROGAM and you rank the sororities that you want back. The next round, the amount of sororities you see go from 14 to 10 at the maximum. So at the end of open house round, you're going to rank all of the sororities. So for example, I ranked all 14, and then my bottom 4 were the alternates, and I hadn't had come up with that word at this point in the video yet. The way it works is that, so say like I have my top 10 sorority, and my number 8 spot, they let go of me. They said, no, we don't want to see her back tomorrow. Then my first alternate spot will move up. For me, for the next round, which is philanthropy round, I had 10 houses back, and one of them was my alternate. So I had gotten let go from 1 house. I knew like a lot of people who didn't even have 10 houses the next day, which is completely fine. Like, do not stress about that if you don't have the max number of houses. If you don't have a full schedule, that's totally completely normal, and it does not mean that you are not going to be in a house. So I just want to stress that enough. Like, if you don't get all of the houses back and you're not going to, do not stress about it, especially if you don't get like your top houses back, because throughout the process you'll realize like maybe your top house wasn't actually where you're meant to be, and the people on the other side who are letting girls go kind of know that if you're gonna fit in or not. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if that helped or not. I don't know. This video is like kind of all over the place. I really hope that it's helpful. So you meet with your ROGAM and you give her your list. And then for us, we had an app, and you put your list in the app. So you have to talk through your list with your ROGAM. They'll give you a password to submit your list. And that's how your schedule for the next day gets made. I also want to put it out there that the sororities cannot see your ranking list. You send your list, and then the sororities send their list, and then they have some computer system or someone does it where they make your schedule the next day. So don't worry about that. So the next day is philanthropy round. So like I said, you're going to have less houses than in the first round. So this round is when you're actually going to talk to girls. If you're on virtual, I guess an open house, you could have also talked to girls in person. But philanthropy is when you're really talking to girls, when you're one-on-one going to the houses. Okay, I realized I didn't explain like what happens in each round, and I don't really know because I didn't do it in person, but basically in the Zoom version, you go on, everyone goes in the big meeting, and then they'll usually like play a video, and then you get sent into breakout rooms, and you don't have to worry about that. Like, they'll just send you into the breakout rooms. And then from my understanding, like in person, you'll walk to the house, they'll do like a chant, they bring you in, and then you get paired up with someone, and they know to find you, they know who you're talking to already. In the breakout rooms, there was like 2 to 3 people in each breakout room, and then sometimes there was one like as the rounds went on. In person, you talk to one person at a time, but then you'll talk to multiple people, so they'll switch out. But yeah, and then you all leave. So I hope I described that correctly, but also I don't have much experience. Philanthropy round, they'll talk about like their philanthropy events, what they do to raise money, and their volunteer work and stuff like that. And you want to show interest in their events and ask questions. If you have any like personal connections to their philanthropy, definitely like express that, because they'll love that. I definitely recommend looking up each sorority's philanthropy that you have that day and kind of get yourself familiar with it. So then after philanthropy round, you'll meet with your ROGAM, you'll do the whole ranking thing again. For example, with my recruitment, we then go from 10 houses or however many houses you have to 6. So you'll have 6 houses and then 4 alternates. Or say you had 5 houses on philanthropy round, you'll put your 5 houses in order and then technically have no alternates. So next round is Sisterhood round, and this one is a really fun round because they just honestly talk about their sisterhood and their friendships and the events that they do. You talk to the girls for 35 minutes, so it's a little bit longer. I had 6 on Sisterhood. I had 2 of my alternates on there. I'd gotten let go by 2 houses the round before. They were my top 2, and I was so sad. I cried, but again, trust the process because I ended up exactly where I'm meant to be. Okay, so Sisterhood. This is the time to ask questions like, what's your favorite thing to do with your sisters? For me, this round was really important for me to get a feel if they were like actually friends with each other, which like I realize now like most sororities actually are, but like what they do with each other outside of sorority events. And I'll go into more detail about like what you specifically should talk about in those rounds in a later video, but that is Sisterhood round. And then at the end of Sisterhood round, this is the hardest cut of them all, or at least it was for me. I went from 6 houses and you cut it down to only 2. So if you have a smaller school that doesn't have as many, then this cut isn't as big, or if you don't have as full of a schedule, which again is completely normal and completely fine, this cut also isn't as big. So the next round is preference round, which this round is very different from the rest of the rounds. It's 50 minutes, and in this round you're going in. At this point, the sorority wants you. Like if you have them on preference, they want to give you a bid and they want to convince you to go to their sorority. So this is the most personal round where they'll really talk about like how you'll fit in, and preference round is when you're supposed to feel the most loved, and it gets really emotional. Some girls cry. I didn't cry. And then this is like you're down to 2, or sometimes you'll have 1, but you're mostly down to 2, and you really have to make the decision of who you're going to pref. At the end of preference round, you meet with your ROGAM again and you choose who you want to rank. So this is where it gets confusing because there's a few ways that this could go. So to my understanding, if you put both of your sororities on your list, you're going to get a bid from either one of them. It depends on honestly how high you are on each of the lists, whether you get pulled up from your second one, you get your second one, or if you stay as your top. It's very confusing and I still don't really understand it, so I'm not going to talk about it that much, and you don't really have to understand that to understand bidding. Or you can single intentionally pref, which is where you only put one on there and you drop another. So this process has a lot of risks to it. At my school, you have to have a meeting with your ROGAM and some of the Pan-Hellenic members to single intentionally pref, and they really don't recommend it because there is a chance that you won't get a bid. Something happens and you don't get a bid, and you could have gotten a bid from the other one, but you dropped them and you chose not to. I would recommend just putting both on because that's the easiest, and even if you feel like you absolutely hate the other one, just go for it because you have until initiation to drop your sorority and still be able to recruit the next year. But on bid day, you'll meet with your ROGAM group first, and then I think you have an ending convocation kind of meeting with everyone, and then you'll get your bid card. For us, like we opened it online. And you open it with your ROGAM group, and if you've received a bid, you go to the house for us, we didn't go to the house, we went to on a Zoom. And that's recruitment. And so after you're done, you'll go to bid day and you'll take cute pictures. The process goes by really fast, but it is really emotionally draining because you're talking to people every single day. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of decisions you have to make. Getting let go from houses hurts for the first time. Like it honestly does. Like it sucks. But just know that y'all are amazing, and getting let go from a house, that does not mean that you won't find the right place for you if you get dropped even from the house that you absolutely love. Also, just remember when you're talking to these girls, they are as nervous as you are, and they literally went through the process and they're basically the same age as you. Like, you're just talking to your peers. Like, that's always what calmed me down. That was a lot to describe, especially because I went through the process almost a year ago and it was virtual. So let's just keep that in mind for my lack of being able to explain things. But go follow me on Instagram because that's where y'all can ask me questions for me to put in the videos, and I'll answer your questions. And subscribe for more recruitment content. I really hope this just kind of like overall explained the process just a little bit to get y'all kind of in the know and like have a little bit more knowledge about the process. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck to you all. You're all so amazing, and I hope that you'll find your forever homes and your best friends, because that's what I did. Have an amazing day, and I'll see y'all in my next video.